Thanks for joining us for Community Connections. We hope that this will give us a chance to talk with volunteers and volunteer organizations in our community to hear about the good work that's already taking place and find out how we can get involved. We all can't do everything that needs to be done, but I hope that as we're educated and informed, that we can all find a place and a way to serve where our truest selves can be present. Well, tonight we're talking with Laura Hartman. She's the Family Resource Director at Squires Elementary in Lexington. We've worked with Squires for several years now, mainly with their backpack program, but there are many other services the Family Resource Center provides, and right now we're collecting some non-perishable food items to help out. So tonight we're going to find out a little bit more about all of the good things that are going on at Squires Elementary. So welcome, Laura. Thanks so much for taking time to do this.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're so grateful that you contacted us. It's been years ago now, saying if we, want to help out. And this has been a great opportunity for the church to be involved in things that are going on. So we'd like to know a little bit more about you, too, and what's going on. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself? How long have you been working in the school system, and how did you get started there?
Sure. I have been with Fayette County Public Schools for 19 years. This will be the 20th. Serving as a Family Resource Center coordinator. I spent the first 13 at Yates Elementary, which is a school off of New Circle Road. And then the last 6 years I've been at Squires. I was originally a case manager for a company called Bluegrass Impact, and we did in-home work for students, very similar to the ones I serve at school. And so that's how I got interested in this job and the school system. So it was a natural progression. On a personal note, I'm married and have two incredible but very busy daughters. And so that keeps me busy when I'm not working. Squires. So before I went to Squires, I didn't know a lot about it, but since I've been there, I tell people it is a hidden gem of Fayette County. It's a pretty small school, and it is in the center of, it's between Armstrong Mill and Buckhorn Drive. So it's a neighborhood school. So every child that goes there, the majority of them can walk. And then we obviously do have buses, but it's so tiny. And it's just a neighborhood school, what you think of kind of like when you grew up. A lot of schools now in Fayette County, people have to take buses there. Not many people can walk. This is not one of those schools. So it's a very family-oriented school. The enrollment's only 471 kids, and that's including preschool through fifth grade. So it's pretty small. Because it's so small, I think that we have we see a lot of siblings come through. And because of that, we get to know the families really well. And I love that because my job is centered around families. As children get older in the school system, the Family Resource Center is called the Youth Service Center in middle and high school. And the idea of that is when children get older, that we focus more on the student and help them grow, because eventually they will be responsible for their future. But I get them when they're babies, and so I get to work with the whole family, and I really enjoy that.
Oh, that's great.
Squires. So another important thing about Squires, we are 67% free and reduced lunch. That's our percentage, and that's important because we call it Frisky, Family Resource Youth Service Centers. We are all funded based on our free and reduced lunch count. So schools that have a very low free and reduced lunch count will not have a center in their school. So those that have higher ones, you get a center, so you get a coordinator. So that's important for us, but you get a specific dollar amount based on your free and reduced lunch count. So everybody's center will have a different amount center allocation for each year.
Right. So what kind of, can you tell us a little bit about the different services that you provide, the different things that you find yourself doing as a director of a family resource center?
Yes. So we're paid through a grant. So our center allocation comes from grant money. And in that grant, we have 5 important components that we're supposed to address on. And so we try to base all of our activities and our events and programming around these 5 components. So one of them is after school and summer childcare. So that is whether that be we produce some type of summer camp or after school program within our school. We also refer out and help families find those resources in the community. So these components don't have to be centered in our school, but they're in our community. The other core component is families in transition. This is probably the hardest one, I think, for every center, and that means that's prenatal through 5 years old. Like I said about Squires, we know the families a little more than maybe other schools because we tend to have siblings over and over. And so we know when families are expecting. But when we don't know the children, it's really hard to know who to reach out to. So that component's really hard for us. And we're always looking for ideas on how we can better meet the community's needs for that one. The fourth one is health services or referrals to health services. Because we don't have a basic needs component, but basic needs is a huge thing we do, I throw basic needs into this one because it is health related. So this is a very big component that we use a lot of community outside resources for. And the fifth one is preschool childcare. That's really important because, as we know, the earlier you help children before they reach school, the more successful they'll be when they are in school. So those are our 5 components that all of our programming is centered around.
Wow. I did not realize how far reaching that is.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
Much more than just the kids while they're in school, but taking care of an entire family before. Right. How are you all able to help out with children before they even get to school with the prenatal care and preschool and that? How do you all find ways to help that out?
So preschool is a little easier because Squires has a preschool program. And so I can partner with our early start program on a daily basis. We tend to reach the siblings, so the younger siblings that we have at our school already, to refer them to our early start. Like I said, the really hard part is the families that you don't know that are out there that will soon be a Squires family. And so it's, we do a lot of communication via website and just kind of getting the word out that way. But we are always looking for ways to help and to better meet those families, whether that be in the past when we had a lot of money and we could do a lot of community service through all the centers. We did community baby showers and we would put flyers everywhere, and we'd have families that we didn't know and would come out and have raffles. So that was really fun, but we had a lot of money to do that. Right. Now, as our allocations continue to dwindle, we have to just be more creative.
Right. Wow, that is so amazing, though. So many resources out there to really help families that are in need, too.
Absolutely. And if you don't know about other community resources, if you've never had to go through it, you wouldn't know just what's out there. There's so much just within Lexington, in Fayette County, for families.
Yeah. Well,
that's one of our jobs, is to help families get that information.
Right. So important because there's so much there and just being that connection for people.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And that seems to be one of the things, too, that during the pandemic, I started to notice more is how much our public schools were really like the hub of life for a long time. Maybe they were already, and I just didn't realize it.
Well, and I think a little bit of both. I think that unless you're in it, unless you have children in it or you worked in it, you didn't really know all of what public schools have to offer. But I also think that the pandemic also gave permission, I guess, for public schools and for people like me to step up and show what was out there in ways we can help. That was one of the things I wrote down, one of your questions about the pandemic. I think that a lot of people, I know people that are my friends that I've known for a long time that knew the title of my job, but didn't know what I did, but started to see the name Frisky Family Resource Youth Service Centers out there on the news or in the newspapers, or coming home with their own children. They were like, "Wow, I didn't really know you all did all that." I think gave us a little bit more respect, I guess. And that was nice, but it was also for me as a coordinator, the outpouring of support from the community during that time. The Matthew Mitchell Foundation and the Calipari Foundation, they gave thousands of dollars to Fayette County families, and they used us as the liaison through it. So I was able to give our families hundreds of dollars of gift cards. I went shopping for a lot of them that couldn't do that, or maybe had a lot of fear of going out in public at that time because we didn't really know a lot about COVID, nor did we have the resources we do now about for COVID. And so with the community support, it really gave us the resources to help our families in the way that we knew they needed.
Yeah. Oh goodness, and so important, and such a connection that's there already. Whenever you've had a relationship with these people, that's one of the things too that it seemed like we missed in the pandemic. There was so much misinformation, and you really needed somebody you trusted to be able to
right.
At that time.
Right. The state was, your children may have gotten them too if they were in public schools, the PEBT cards to help with food. That went to everyone. And there was so much misinformation about that we were able to speak with those in charge with the state and give our families just the basics on how to use them. People were calling the numbers on the back of the cards and were on hold for hours. And so this kind of helped with that process too. And if you've never used one of those, you would have no idea how to use one. And we encouraged all of our families, if they weren't using them for themselves, that, go out and shop for your local school or local food pantry. And so people really did come together. I saw, learn to lean on one another and to ask for help. If you've never had to ask for help before, there were a lot of families that have never struggled financially, and they did. And so being there and being able to help them was really nice.
Yeah. Well, can you tell us a little bit about maybe how needs have changed during the pandemic for your students? Has there been a kind of a shift in the kinds of services that you've had to offer, or the needs of the students?
Well, the needs definitely didn't change, but those that needed assistance changed. Like I said, people that have never reached out to me, that some of them I didn't even know their names, had to look them up on our computer to make sure they were students of ours because I've never worked with them. Parents losing their jobs because of the situation. So that changed. And so trying to find the support for not only the families I help on a daily basis, but all the influx of families that needed help that weren't even on my radar. So that it changed, but didn't. So that somewhat answered that question. But the other thing was the need for electronics, for hotspots, we were lucky enough to have Chromebooks to send home with children, but sending home a Chromebook to someone that doesn't have internet access that didn't help. So our district was really, really good about getting us the hotspots in our hands so we could deliver to our families. Let's see.
Yeah, what an important resource that has become that we don't think about too, about how privileged, we are to be able to have access to, broadband, and how necessary that is for work and for learning.
Absolutely. I'll tell you a story about just, people working hard and doing the best they can. I went to my building quite often during that time. I spent most of my days delivering hotspots and food and school supplies and awards to keep the students motivated and engaged. But there were times when I would come to the building and I would see cars outside just parked. And I'd put my mask on and I'd go up and, make sure they're okay. And they're just there to get the Wi-Fi just so their child can do work, and everybody's doing the best they can. And I applaud parents for just making sure.
Yeah. Yeah. What diligence and hard work to
Absolutely.
to do that for your kids, and then to miss work yourself that's,
Yes.
It was
absolutely.
a difficult time for that. So how do they feel now? Are things getting better? I mean,
they are. It feels much more normal now that a lot of the mandates have been lifted throughout the Fayette County. And all direction was taken through the health department. So we did listen there. So we're not in masks unless you want to be. They now can have recess with other classes, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is a big deal. Socialization is huge for elementary school, well, for middle and high as well. And so I do feel like it's gotten feels a little more like normal. But I think we're all still very aware. The children in the hallway are not on top of each other. They're still spaced out. I think we've learned a lot through this process of just how to be safer and healthier in general. And I don't think that'll ever go away now that we know. And I've also realized that kids are just so resilient. They follow the rules. They don't complain. They don't. They just do what they're told. And, a lot of adults could learn from that. And so seeing our students react and still grow, it's amazing. And I wish we could all learn from them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'd do a lot better if we could take it in stride.
Absolutely. Yes. Another need I thought of, like I've mentioned our district a few times, but Fayette County really has been very helpful to families and students. One of the biggest concerns we had in March in 2019 when we were all sent home was, oh my goodness, our kids are going to fall academically so far behind. What are we going to do? Because there are going to be your students that are in the driveway, in the parking lot of the school, and always, the parents are waking them up every morning and doing exactly what they're supposed to be, but not every child. And it's not on them. So what can we do to help them? And the district last year came up with the funds to every school had a summer program. They called it Summer Ignite. And it lasted for, I think we had 2 sessions of 3 weeks. And then one, what they called transition program for your incoming kindergartners, incoming 6th graders, incoming 9th graders. And they're doing that again this summer. And the hopes of that is you invite those children that may need the extra support, that may have fallen behind more so than they would have normally. And hopefully by providing this service to get them where they need to be before the start of school. So that was a huge concern of ours.
Yeah. Well, I think it's hard for any student, no matter how much support they have. I know my kids were at home for a long time, and they're good students, but
yes.
And they worked hard, but it's taxing.
It is taxing.
In front of the computer, and so too, if you don't have all the supports, it has to be really, really, really hard to keep up too. So
absolutely.
Everybody can use that. So are there, we talked a little bit about, right now we're doing a food drive to kind of help out with the backpack program. Can you tell us a little bit about what happens, how you all use that food and, send the food home with students? And then two, maybe if there's other needs or other ways that people can be involved and volunteer.
Well, the food program is probably, in my opinion, the most important for any community partner for me, because, as I said about the center allocation, it's just not that, I don't have that much to work from. And I do spend a lot of it on food, but that doesn't last very long. And so I do rely on food drives. Our PTA is really good about it, and our staff and students try to help, but I can't ask them every month. And so any kind of assistance I can get with that is wonderful. I use our food pantry for the Friday backpacks, which I call Blessings in a Bag. Right now, I'm helping over 30 families, and many of them are multiple children in the families. And so we provide food that a kid can make for themselves. Not every child has somebody at home that can prepare the food all day long. Therefore, anything a child, an 8-year-old child can make for themselves, and snacks. And so that's what I include in there. And it goes quickly with 30 families. And I also use the food pantry for situational needs. So if a family is in need of food, and not just on a Friday, I will deliver that to the house as well. So right now it's pretty bare. Our student council just did a breakfast food drive just to help me out, because I think kids like breakfast foods and they'll snack on those all day long. Yeah. And so the last 2 weeks, that's basically what I've been sending home, with a letter of other places they can locate food in the community if they need it, because I know it's pretty bare. But my grant money is out at this point. It's middle of April. Yeah. So food drives are always very important, and I know it may not seem super fun, but it is always needed.
Yeah, well, so you send these bags home with students on Fridays, right?
Every Friday.
And so now they have food for themselves and maybe for siblings and other folks in their family for the weekend.
Yes, for the weekends. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's what a great way to help. What a great support for families who really need it, where they can just take it from school. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And over the pandemic, I guess 2020, we did that weekly. So even over the summer, so it wasn't as hard, because we had, like I said, with all the assistance in the community, I had more money than I ever had to provide that. So I was able to get more than just. I was able to buy meats and diapers and things that I would never be able to before. And so I'm grateful for that, because their need was so high. I'm not sure I could have given them that much assistance with a regular school year.
Right.
So that is probably my number one need for community partners. There's always need for volunteers as well. Any kind of program I do, I need assistance. And that's some things that just come up that I could let you know about. As far as other basic needs, the same thing with food. A lot of times I'll send home hygiene items with kids too, toothbrushes and shampoo and conditioners, things to add to those bags, because those kind of items are pretty costly at the grocery store when you're on a fixed income.
Right, mm-hmm. Definitely. Well, it's so many things that we can do to help out folks in our community, and
absolutely.
Yeah, it's great stuff for us to be able to help with. And we're just grateful for all of the work that you do with these students, for all the work that you've done to help make our community a better place for everybody. So thank you for all that you do.
Thank you.
And for including us and being able to help out a little bit.
I appreciate you all. You have been a great support for many years. I very much appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Before we go, one of the things I didn't ask, did you have any stories or anything you wanted to share about maybe some?
Sure, I have one. It was the end of March of 2019, and it just stands out for me because right when we all got shut down, when everybody was shut down, basically, and so it really stands out to me because it was a family that I really hadn't helped a lot with. I knew who they were only because the child at our school was just one of the sweetest kids ever, just mannerly, sweet as can be. And the family was always involved and worked well with everyone. And the father got laid off with no real promise that he'll ever be able to come back. It was a job that everybody went home. And so they couldn't work. The mom there was 3 children in all, and so the mom stayed at home with them. And so they worked really hard. They cut corners, they relied on family, but they still never asked me for help. And so finally, I called to check in on them and just to let them know ways I can help. And the mom broke down and said that the oldest daughter contracted COVID and was in the hospital. And it was the first person I had known. So, and it was right at the beginning where we really didn't know a lot. So it was really scary. And it still is scary. But we know a little bit more. And so I just kind of started bringing food to their porch. And, it was right at the beginning. So they didn't want me to touch anything, or even they didn't want to come to the door. So they would just kind of yell, "Thank you." And so I didn't really get to see them face to face for a couple of weeks. And so every day I brought them something, whether it just be cleaning items because they were so worried about everybody else in the family, or food or games for the kids to play. And then it was about 3 weeks and the daughter came home. It's really bad. Everybody's completely fine now. But we were able to, Squires, and they were the middle and high school, we were able to collaborate and help and found assistance in the community to pay every one of their bills for 2 months. I don't know how. I have never been able to find that much assistance in the community. But I think because of this situation, people wanted to help. And so because we were able to help them, and so they weren't behind, the dad got his job back. They were able to work again and, happily ever after. But I say that because so many families in this same position would still not recover financially, emotionally, physically. And so I'm just so grateful that we had an outcome, a success story like this, because they're not all like this.
Yeah. Well, it's wonderful to hear that at least, the times whenever everything does come together, folks are able to help, and make a difference. And, so that because, the years that could cause for a family who with ongoing bills to pay,
absolutely,
and everything else can really make a difficult turn. So, man, the hard work of our folks like you and other folks in our public school system really is making a difference. Thank you so much for all your hard work with us. It's great to be able to hear about what's going on at Squires, and we're hoping that things continue to get better.
Absolutely, we are too. We're very hopeful.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time and for sharing with us tonight. And it's been great talking with you, Laura.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I appreciate you all.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay.